Hello everybody and welcome back to Pokemon Ranger. So while we did manage to fully stop the Go-Rock Quad, but we still need to stop their father, aka Gordor, who is just about to utilize his finished off Super Styler as we go into the final mission of the main game, the Fiore Temple. Which is indeed the location of where we are in right now. now before we head ourselves into the actual Fiore Temple itself, now as you can see, there aren't any Pokemon outside here, which is what's gonna lead into as we are just about to enter. Yeah, now we see this guy. You chased us all the way here? That's persistent for you. You should put that persistence to good use in your studies, gaming, or even romance. Well, I suppose. Okay, I'm locking up. Yep, that guy's now locked us out. Wait! Hold it, Go Squad? Yeah. We're now locked down. So how exactly do we get this thing opened? And now is if we take a look at the fiery door, we see we need the field move of free fires. But however, we don't exactly have any Pokemon with us that can actually utilize that. So you may be wondering, how exactly are we going to be able to get this door opened? Well, you are about to see soon enough. But I don't see any Pokemon around here. Does it mean we have to go back? Well, you would think so, but we don't have to. Because look who is here once again. Ditto, isn't this Charizard the one you saved in the Jungle Relic? And also the one that we also have down in the Sacro range. Yep, and with that, Charizard has finally repaid Charizard has finally helped us out for helping him out twice. And with that, as you saw, yep, and with Charizard opened up to the fiery door, and we can now fully get access to the Fiore Temple. Now, this place definitely has a good chunk of Pokemon that you're not going to see anywhere else within the region. So, yeah, definitely make sure you pick them up. Now, as you saw, we do have a few golems here too. So if you still want to utilize one, then you can. Then as we go over here, look who's here! It's Donphan! Yeah, like I said previously, yeah, the Ringtown Capture Challenge was not going to be the only time that we will ever get to see Donphan. Yeah, the Fiore Temple actually has a few Donphans that we can actually utilize as our friend Pokemon. So yeah, and I'm gonna say this right now. Donphan is definitely going to be some very handy Pokemon for you to have. Trust me on that. Oh yeah, and the Pokemon that's actually flying up there. Yep, Aerodactyl. Yeah, now this is where you can get your own Aerodactyl. And as you saw up there, yeah, now that's where you could get. Now here's where a Jolteon is. Now, and I guess I just say this right now. There are three specific Pokemon that we have to get in order for us to be able to get to the last area within the Fiore Temple. And this Vaporeon here just so happens to be one of them. Now, as soon as the battle starts, yep. Yeah, Vaporeon is already ready to leave. Yeah, that's why definitely utilize your partner's discharge, because you're not going to be able to get Vaporeon otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, definitely utilize plus and minus discharge in order for you to be able to get the Vaporeon. Oh yeah, and as you've also been seeing, not only have we seen Ariados, but there is also Raichu here too. And Raichu is your only recharged Pokemon that you are ever going to see within the Fiore Temple. And now we get to this door. Another set of doors? How are we supposed to get these open? Well, now we have this little tablet right here. There's something engraved on this stone tablet. You know, once upon the sacred pedestals are placed, the chosen Pokemon, the path shall be thrown wide. This must be the hint for opening the doors. And now that we've read that, now we have those pedestals. Whoa! That gave me a jolt! Yeah, get it, Jolteon. The sacred pedestals that the stone tablet mentioned, are they these things? Yes, indeed they are, actually. And now, when you tap on these tablets, one will say a red Pokemon on 4 legs cloaked by the power of fire, and then another one will say a yellow Pokemon on 4 legs cloaked by the power of electricity, and then the third one says a blue Pokemon on 4 legs cloaked by the power of water, and then it says place the Vaporeon on the pedestal. Now see what happens when we say yes. It went onto the pedestal by itself, as if something were leading it. Yep, it certainly did. It looks like your deductions were on the money, didn't? Okay, 2 more to go. And now the second one is the Pokemon that we already saw. And that Pokemon, of course, being this Jolteon. Now, Jolteon is definitely something to be desired, considering, yeah, as we know about Jolteon, yeah, Jolteon is not only a fast Pokemon, but he's also a very fast attacker too. Yeah, and even when you think you're just about to do your loops around him, then Jolteon will immediately start his attack, and then he will start to run off, and then he'll start to run off again. Excuse me. So I would say, yeah, definitely utilize the Donphan, so then you can have yourself a better chance to get the Jolteon. Yeah. Now you may be thinking, where exactly do we find the red Pokemon cloaked by fire? Well, if you can probably tell, since Vaporeon and Jolteon are a part of the Pokemon that we need to place on the pedestals, I think you can probably tell what the other one is. But anyways, that one, as you saw in there, now the Fiore Temple is also another location where you can actually get your own Quilava too. And if we head towards this area, now here's where you can not only get your own Swallow, and also another Medicham, but here we have 2 Gengars, which, just like Ghastly, will try to abduct your Pokemon. Now Gengar actually loves making clones of himself. Now you can tell which ones aren't the clones when they do not give off a shadow. Yeah, that's where you can easily tell which Gengars are fake. Oh no, you don't! Yeah, I saw that, you bastard! Yeah, that Gengar immediately just went right after my Pokemon. Yeah, there was no way in hell I was gonna let that happen. But anyways, everyone, yeah, as I was saying, yeah, you can tell which Gengars are fake when they don't give off any shadows. But anyways, everyone, yeah, now here's where you can not only also get yourself another Glalie too, but also here's where you can get the other 2 evolutions, Umbreon and also Espeon too. Now, anyways, as you can see, now Umbreon essentially let's put it up the same haze move that Murkrow utilized. So if you already know how to deal with Murkrow, then dealing with Umbreon really shouldn't be that much any different. Then as for Espeon, honestly I forget what Espeon does. Yeah, considering that I usually get her really quickly, so yeah. But anyways, now we go over here. Yep, now here's where we can get the actual Pokemon that we need for that third pedestal, a Flareon. Now Flareon is a bit of a bitch. Yeah, not only he will constantly utilize that flamethrower move of his, and also considering that you need to do at least 13 loops around him in order for you to be able to get him. Yeah, honestly, dealing with Flareon is a major bitch to deal with, so honestly, just definitely, if you want to give this battle really quicker, yeah, definitely utilize a Pokéassist. Yeah, definitely utilize a Pokéassist, I guess, against the Flareon. But anyways, everyone. Now that we've got the other two, yeah, why don't we get to placing those two onto the pedestals? Now, I guess as we are heading ourselves back, I guess I should go over the browser numbers for Flareon and for both Flareon and Jolteon. Now, usually, when it comes to Pokédex standards, they usually put Vaporeon first, then Jolteon, then Flareon. Whereas for this game, while Vaporeon's browser number is 183. While Jolteon's browser number is 185. Meanwhile, Flareon's is at 184. Yeah, for some odd reason, within this game only. Yeah, this right here is the only Pokemon game in existence where they actually put Jolteon after Flareon. Yeah. Yeah, again, like I said, that is probably the only Pokemon game where we will ever see that. Well, yeah, I'm talking about the actual Pokédex numbers, not so much when it comes to other some spin-offs, like for example the Pokepark games, where those games don't exactly where they don't always put the Pokemon within their evolution lines or whatever. Yeah, they usually place those Pokemon within the area for when you actually find them. Within the areas for where you actually find them. Yeah, but anyways, everyone. Now, as you can see, now I'm just getting myself prepped up for when we get ourselves into the last area of the Fiore Temple. Now, as you can see, now the Pokemon that I will be utilizing more so specifically, as we get into the final encounter, to our final boss encounter with Gordor. Yeah, I would highly recommend you getting at least both of the Donphans that you see. Yeah, trust me, these two Donphans are gonna be extremely helpful to you. And then you may also want to pick up at least the Grovyle and also the Medicham too. Yeah, just in case if you really need them. Oh yeah, and then as for the Aerodactyl up there, now I believe if you get too close to a shadow, yeah, then that's when the Aerodactyl will drop down towards you. Then that's when you can try to get the Aerodactyl as your friend. But anyways, now as we enter the last area of the Fiore Temple. Now, before we get to our final boss encounter against Gordor, we still have a few more Go squad members to deal with first. Now for our first one, we're gonna be facing off against free Linoones. Now, this right here is actually a reference to what we saw in the anime for when we actually got our first encounter with his Alana, when we saw her capture free Linoone to slash some vines. So yeah, this right here is definitely a big reference for that. But anyways, now as you can see from these free Linoones, yeah, they really do love running in a straight line. Yeah, while occasionally turning. And they obviously move really quickly. But if you manage to get at least one at a time, then dealing with the other two shouldn't be all that troubling to get after that. And then for our next encounter, we're gonna be taking on the second stage of the Johto starters. Bayleef, Quilava, and Croconaw. Now, if we didn't get the Bayleef after going through that stealth mission with the mechanic, then this right here would have been our very first time encountering a Bayleef. Now, yeah, I feel like I want to get rid of that Quilava first. Yeah, that's why I really want to focus on Quilava first. Yeah, then take out Croconaw here. Okay. Now, all I have to do now is simply just focus on the Bayleef, which is definitely proven to be a lot more difficult than you would think. And there we go, done. Alright, Donphan, thank you so much, thank you so much for your assistance. Now I'm gonna have to go back so I can get myself another one again. And then for our last encounter with the Garug squad, before we get into the final boss encounter with Gordor, shows off another reference to the anime. More so a anime movie. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, Destiny Deoxys may recognize this pairing of Pokemon, a Blaziken and a Blastoise. Yeah. For those of you who have seen Destiny Deoxys, you may saw Ash again, who got defeated. So bind these two Pokemon during that movie. Yeah. But anyways, everyone. Now as for these two. Now, while Blaziken is of course your really fast attacker, then as for Blastoise, yeah, he will not only keep up with that Hydro Pump attack of his, and considering that you need to do at least 17 loops in order for you to be able to get him too. Yeah, which definitely makes Blastoise a really good defensive Pokemon out of the two. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, definitely utilize your Discharge move against these two as well. Just so you can try your best to capture at least one at a time. Or if you essentially got lucky like I just did just then, yeah, trying to get those two together while being paralyzed. Yeah, and considering that Blastoise is so weak to electricity, yeah, meaning that you really simply just have to focus on getting the Blastoise. Blastoise will stay paralyzed for even longer. So yeah, that's how I was able to get those two rather quickly. But anyways, and well, with that said, yeah, now with those guys have good good and done. Excuse me. Now with those guys good and done, now I'm just once again gonna be getting my Donphan and Raichu. Then we're gonna get ourselves prepped up, which now will essentially make ourselves fully prepped up for our final boss encounter with Gordor. Now, I guess I should say this as well too. Definitely make sure you are fully prepared for that final encounter, because Gordor is gonna have a major big surprise for you when we get to see him up there. Yeah, I mean a major big surprise for you. So yeah, definitely get yourself fully prepped up for this fight. But anyways, everyone, with that said, that should be all I'm gonna do for this part. And so for the next part, we're gonna take on Gordor one more time. And so, until next part, I'll see you guys next time.